What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. I just watched the brand new YouTube released movie, Bodied. This is a movie I've been hearing about since the beginning of this year. It premiered at a film festival, and people have been raving about it ever since then. I've heard things from it's insane to it's super over the top to it is just an all-out entertaining movie, so I was very excited for this. If you guys don't know how my reviews work, I like to talk about the good, the bad, and then give you my score. Check out my newly released video, my top 10 Stan Lee cameos. I have some movie reviews coming for you guys on Friday and this weekend, but right now we're talking Bodied. Let's get right into it. So a progressive graduate student finds success and sparks outrage when his interest in battle rap as a thesis subject becomes a competitive obsession. One of the more interesting movie topics I have seen this year. I'm actually in the middle of another movie right now called Blind Spotting. I rented that on Amazon Prime, but I saw this movie released and I'm like, I have to review this because I've been looking forward to it so much. So let's start out with our lead characters, and my goodness, this guy is fantastic. His name is Calum Worthy. He plays Ben Grimm. If you guys are comic book fans, it can't tell I am. They make references to superheroes all throughout, and of course Ben Grimm is the thing, but our lead in Calum Worthy is so good in this role. He is cheesy, he's nerdy, he's a guy that you wouldn't expect going into this situation, but I think that's the brilliance of the movie, is because everything that you don't expect to happen for this guy happens, and he ends up being what I consider to be, now I know we're the audience, so we're supposed to be following him and rooting for him, but it's different if he's not good at what he is pursuing. He is so good at this. Every single battle he was a part of, he starts out a little rough around the edges, but once he figures out what he's trying to say, he has the words in there. He just has to figure out how to get it out. But once he starts battle rapping, it was so cool. And I'm not going to say I relate to the situation, but I relate to him as a character because, you know, he's this nerdy guy. He gets himself in situations that he doesn't think he's going to get himself into, and he's a super like comic booky guy as well as I am. So I really related to him at the beginning of the movie, and to see where he went throughout and the character that he turns into when he's surrounded by all of these people that he goes to college with that are just on the opposite end of the spectrum. Their beliefs are so different, and their ideals, while they think that their ideals are there, they're very backwards about certain topics. But this doesn't just explore his character as the one being in the right. It explores every single character and how maybe they're a little flawed, but some of their beliefs are valid. It does that for him. It does that for Ben Grimm. It does that for many, many side characters. And even the relationship with his dad, I thought was super interesting. They got heated at times. They have different ideals, and that exchange at the end, it's really kind of sad because they're just on two different levels, and his dad never takes the time to understand what his son has got himself into, and that's kind of the point of the movie too, is he keeps telling these people, listen, you don't understand until you're in the situation. You don't know what battle rap is until you try it, until you go for it, and until you actually compete, or at least pay attention while he's competing. And he does it, and he learns a lot. Now, there are moments towards the end where I truly believe he went over the limit. He pushed it over the top, and the movie lets us know, hey, you did wrong. You're going to lose certain people in your life, whether you like it or not. And some of those storylines never get resolved towards the end. And I'm not saying don't get resolved from a narrative standpoint. He ends up in a place that you don't expect him to end up. Everything is not happy-go-lucky at the end. He loses people, and he never gets those people back. But the movie is about him finding what makes him truly happy, and it's basically him finding his purpose in life, and that's what he does, battle rap, and that little moment at the end. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but when the movie cuts off, I thought that was the most brilliant way to end it. I loved it, leaving us a little bit on edge, a little bit on our toes, but it's not so important that it's going to ruin the experience for us, guys. The more I think about Bodied, the more I'm just like, why are more people not talking about this? This movie was an absolute blast. Now, if you get easily offended, I could see you coming out of this like, they went way far over the top. They made fun of certain people, but I think the movie kind of knows what it is. It's playing upon topics that are very relevant to 2018, and they even say it in the movie, this is 2018, nobody gets a private life. But yeah, this is 2018, and they are saying some things here that would have been offensive 5 years ago, but they're saying it now, and a lot of people are going to watch this film and be like, oh my goodness. And I'm not trying to stick up for what they said in certain situations, but I think they're playing it in a way in this movie that's almost like not a satire, but something that's very self-aware. We know what we're saying, but we're still trying to make this point because this is how people actually act. And I thought that was part of the brilliance of Bodied, not to mention that this movie is very well filmed. I love some of the shots, some of the cinematography. It did that thing that Creed did where it brings up the graphics on screen, and it started playing that in a comedic way in certain situations. Like when he would be in a shouting match with his girlfriend, the graphic would come up on screen, her versus him, and I just love how they played with that. They established it in the beginning, and they continue to use it as a trope, just not going over the top with it, and I thought that was brilliant as well. The more I think about this film, guys, the more I am so impressed with it. It was so different. It's something that is insane and crazy, but in my opinion, it's so self-aware and so entertaining, and it does send many messages and does not leave some of the main characters in a place that you think it's going to leave it in, and it combined humor and serious topics, and I think a beautiful way. Bodied is such a cool movie, and I had an absolute blast with this film. Now, like I said, some of the things in here are very offensive, and a lot of people will take issue with that, and I can't get on to you guys for that because it did go over the top. Now, I loved the end rap battle. There were a lot of things that pushed it for me. It's like, oh my gosh, they are saying things here that would be said in a rap battle, but say if it was on television, they probably would have cut it off immediately because it was just too far for me. The characters made mistakes, and I think that's part of the film, but if you're an audience member and you take things to heart, there are many things that you are going to take to heart here, and it was rough to watch at times. I don't think that takes away from the movie because it is part of the narrative. I'm just telling you guys where I'm coming from. There were also some things in there that I found very cliched, some very expositional scenes, especially at the beginning when he's walking around and talking with his girlfriend. She said some lines, it's like, oh, you're just telling us that and telling us that, when we could have figured it out for ourselves. And there are some sound effects issues. They use the sound effects that we've heard 1,000 times before. Very minor nitpicks when it comes to negatives. Just some things more on the technical side, even though I thought the technical side was handled brilliantly. And the last thing I'll say is the movie is just a lot. It's a lot coming at you at once, a lot of different characters, a lot of things happening on screen. They're combining humor with serious topics, with a bit of an emotional undertone that is just a lot to balance. When you're handling so many things, sometimes it can come across as too much. I don't think Bodied did, but I could see the complaints there. Overall, I believe Bodied is a movie that I am going to remember from this year. It could go down not even as a cult classic, but just a 2018 classic that continues to get better with age. I feel like if I see this movie again, I may even like it more a second time. I wish I could have seen it on a big screen. That's the only negative with this film coming out on YouTube, but I was still engaged enough and sucked in enough that I am going to give Bodied, and I can't believe I'm giving it such a high score, an 88%. One of my favorite movies of the year. I don't know if it's going to crack my top 10, but this thing just came out of nowhere, and it gave me really everything I could have asked for, and it was super entertaining. And that is the best possible thing it could have done. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Did you enjoy Bodied? Do you have YouTube Premium, YouTube Red, whatever they're calling it now? And let me know what you guys think down below. This is your space to talk about Bodied. Let's just talk about how cool this movie was. Like I said, a lot of things happening this weekend. More reviews, more countdowns, more Netflix reviews. Hopefully Friday I'm going to spend all day and watch brand new Netflix content, as well as a new episode of Titans. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you for everything that you do for me, and I'll catch you guys later.